Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well and thanks for being here. So this reading is for the full moon in Scorpio, which is coming up on the 12th of May. I am going to warn you guys that this reading is kind of out there, so do brace yourselves. And I got that consistently through the astrology and the tarot, so yeah, we'll get through it. Now the video itself will follow the usual format. I'll just look at the astrological chart first and then look at the tarot spread for the full moon. I normally do find there are connections between the two, but if you're not interested in the astrology section, just skip through the tarot section. The timestamps will be in the description box for each of those sections. And before we start, we'll just do our love pause as we always do. So this is where we pause the video and send some love out into the universe. Another option is to do a Ho'oponopono prayer, which is to say the 4 sentences. Thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, and please forgive me. Okay, so I hope you'll join me in the love pause. The time to pause is now, and I'll see you all on the next slide. Thanks. All right, so this is our full moon chart. There's quite a bit going on, so I'll do my best to unpack it all for you. Now in purple, I've highlighted the full moon axis, and that's going from the sun in Taurus, which is at about 7 o'clock on this chart, over to the moon in Scorpio, which is at about 1 o'clock on this chart. Now the sun here is actually conjunct Uranus, which sets things up to be interesting right from the get-go. Now the Scorpio full moon is naturally going to be an emotionally intense full moon, but this opposition to Uranus might actually mean there are some shocks thrown in here. And interestingly, with these planets being in these signs, there's actually a mutual reception happening. So the moon would normally be exalted in Taurus and Uranus would normally be exalted in Scorpio. But here at this full moon, they're in the opposite signs, so that puts them in what's called a fall. So both of these planets, Uranus and the moon, are weaker in the signs that they're in, but because they're opposing each other, there's this thing called a mutual reception, which means the energies still kind of work together, and that sort of diminishes any conflict that you would be expecting with the opposition. So it's, even though they're opposing each other, they're not strongly in conflict with each other. Now, the full moon, as I said, is in Scorpio, which is co-ruled by Mars and Pluto. And that's interesting as well because they just recently had that opposition. They were part of that fixed grand cross that I talked about, I think, in the last lunar reading. So we had Mars and Pluto opposing each other in fixed signs. And then the cross was coming from the Sun and Lilith, which were in the other fixed signs. So that was an intense energy. Now, I don't know what happened or if anything happened for you guys, but that fixed grand cross would have meant a lot of pressure for things to change in your life and things that you really perhaps were avoiding trying to change. And at the time I was doing that last reading, I did feel there would be some hidden truths that needed to be revealed. And I also remember thinking, even if that's difficult to do, if you did manage to do it, if you did manage to say the truth that needed to be said, then that would actually be a liberating or would have a liberating effect on the way your life would unfold. So if that was your experience and you did have some kind of breakthrough, you might be feeling a lot more at ease now. Now, the North Node I've highlighted in yellow and it's conjunct Saturn, so they're on the left-hand side of this chart. And the North Node is actually in a trine with the full moon and a sextile to the Sun and Uranus, so that's a very favourable interaction. Saturn's a little further away in terms of the degree points, but it's definitely sextiling Uranus in Taurus. And I guess because it is sort of conjunct the North Node, it's also playing a part in this full moon. So full moons are typically about completions and releases. So whatever it is whatever it is that's being released, it is working with the North Node and Saturn. And because those are in Pisces, it is about the direction we're moving in spiritually and the plans and structures that we've got in place to make that happen. So the impact of Uranus here is definitely like a wild card. It's a favorable aspect here, but it's a bit like what I described in the last lunar video. So Uranus might make things happen instantly in a way that you're not at all prepared for. So if this was something where you have thought or planned for something to unfold in a certain time frame or according to a particular sequence. Uranus might just deliver you straight to the outcome. It's like, ready or not, here it is. It's here. It's here right now. So you might be going, whoa, this is like 5 years ahead of when it was supposed to happen, or whatever. It's something like that. So you will be caught off guard because it's like, what the? But anyway, so that's the sort of energy that Uranus can have when it's doing this sort of thing. Now, Pluto, another outer planet, I've got here highlighted in blue at about 11 o'clock, and it is also one of the rulers of this full moon. It's actually gone retrograde now, so it's in Aquarius and it's gone retrograde. So we'd expect this to be about internal transformations. Pluto has got a couple of notable aspects here. So it's in a sextile to Neptune in Aries, which I've also highlighted in the same shade of blue. That's about 9 o'clock. And that's a good interaction. So whatever Neptune is initiating in the sign of Aries, the Pluto retrograde is going to be working well with that. And then there's a square between Pluto and Mercury in Taurus, which is highlighted in green at about 8 o'clock. And that's obviously a square, so it's a challenging aspect. So Mercury is now in Taurus, working its way through Taurus, but it's going to start off by being challenged by whatever Pluto's throwing up as part of its retrograde. So Pluto is a strong outer planet. Mercury is a personal planet. So it's not really a fair contest. Mercury, I think, will just have to accept what happens and work with it. So there might be something we have to change in our material lives because of whatever Pluto might be pushing us to change. I've personally had a few experiences with Pluto retrogrades, and they forced me to change things in my life that I really wasn't expecting to change. So I kind of know what it feels like. For me, it's like this heavy, heavy internal pressure. And the more I try to ignore it, the worse it gets. And I just get more and more anxious and stressed. And as a result of those Pluto retrogrades, I've kind of learned to surrender to those feelings when they start. So based on my experience, I feel like you just have to surrender because it's just relentless pressure and it only stops when you've done the thing that you're supposed to do. So it feels like Pluto just pushes you all the way to the edge of the cliff. It just keeps going and going until, you reach the point where you go, I've got no choice. I've got to give this away or get rid of this or stop doing this. So I find now that it's a lot easier to surrender early. So that you're not at the edge of the cliff freaking out, and you save yourself that period of anxiety and stress that, because it really is kind of like a losing battle ultimately. So if you have that sort of thing happening, when you do finally recognize that pressure's not going away, I think you just have to call it. Say, all right, I surrender, wave your white flag, then move on to the next thing. Which is where you're meant to be going. Now, the last thing to talk about here is this lovely trine between Venus in Aries and Mars in Leo, which I've highlighted in orange. And both of these planets, they've had a fairly heavy retrograde. They were long retrogrades in uncomfortable territory for both of them, but they're now both direct, so that's really nice. So they're moving forward. And these are the masculine and feminine energies in us. So it feels like they're now on the same page. They're aligned. They're actively moving forward. And they're both in fire signs. So that can also indicate that they're in a very inspired and passionate state. They're feeling good about the future. So that's lovely. So they look like they're aligned and working together, and they're both willing to move forward. So I guess if we're looking at a chart where things might be changing very quickly, you might be pressured to give things up. You might be surprised by something just arriving that you're not ready for. So you've got these endings and beginnings. Certainly that fits with Scorpio energy, but I feel like this is all coming in from outer planet action. So forced endings, life-changing surprises, and the need for us to adjust to those things. And then there's these new beginnings, and we're strongly being supported to push forward with. So like this Mars and Venus thing working together, even it's like, oh, if there's a new beginning, let's do it. It's really, really positive. So I feel like this is going to mean big shifts for the collective. And I think we're just going to have to ride the waves and continue to trust that the universe knows exactly what it's doing. Yeah, that's, we might be terrified, but it's all right. We're on it. All right, so now we'll head to the tarot section. Okay, so this is our full moon tarot spread. If you're interested in the decks I've used, they'll be listed in the description box. Now, at the bottom of the deck, we had the Knight of Pentacles, but immediately under that was the Sun card, and then immediately under that was the Ace of Cups card. So I took all of that. That seems like a wonderful start. So the Knight of Pentacles is obviously someone who's very committed to a long-term vision, and they're steadily working towards achieving it. It's earth sign energy, but I see it as a Virgo card myself. Now, the Sun is a beautiful card. It's a Leo card, and it's the most positive card in the deck. It represents joy and happiness, all the good things. And the Ace of Cups is another amazingly positive card because it's about someone's cup being filled. They feel happy and loved. There's lots of positive energy that's filling their cup and spilling from their cup. Now, at this point, I'm thinking of the astrology because we did talk about someone working on something that they thought would take a lot of time, and then they get to the outcome much earlier than they expected. So this could definitely be talking about that thing again. But I'm also noticing something here because the Suit of Pentacles in this deck is named crystals, and in this Ace of Cups card, it's interesting because we normally see the Ace of Cups filling with water, which is about emotions and, feeling emotionally full. But here in this deck, the Ace of Cups itself is full of crystals. So I guess if we're considering that crystals are pentacles, it's almost like maybe the reason this person is feeling happy and loved is because they've been abundantly materially blessed, which is weird, but I'm trying to think. I guess it could be like if it's someone for whom the material blessings are related to how loved they are. So that would work for someone who's in entertainment, like a celebrity or something like that, an actor, a singer, a sports person, people like that. So the more people love them, the more money they'll end up making. So people will obviously pay to see them do their thing, but they'll also get like businesses paying them to sponsor their products or advertise. Businesses paying to sponsor them or to advertise their products or services. And they may even be able to create their own businesses and brands that will be popular. Or they might get signed on to big contracts or be the ones who get the best offers. So it's really all because they're loved by a lot of people. So I'm getting that this might be about someone who is going to be loved by a lot of people, and all of that love is effectively being expressed as those people supporting this person and what they do. So that love is sort of translating into material wealth. And when you think about it, there are lots of examples of singers, actors, sports people who make a lot more money than other people in their industries. And as I'm saying that, I'm thinking about how the show Friends became so big that the actors got to the point where they were making $1 million an episode. And that was a huge deal back in the day because TV stars didn't normally make that much money. But due to the popularity of the show and how loved those characters were, those actors ended up making more money in a year than a lot of other movie stars were making, or a lot of movie stars were making. So I think if you're making $1 million of an episode, and I don't know if there's 20 episodes a year, like that's 20 million a year. And I'm not even sure, like I think there would probably have been A-lister movie stars who made that much money, but not ordinary TV stars. So they kind of were, they sort of jumped right up to the top because of how popular that show was and how loved their characters were. And so for those particular actors, they started out in a TV show, but then they ended up getting movie roles and being recruited to be in advertisements and things like that. So it's kind of like the more loved you are, the higher your stock rises, is what I'm thinking here. And I'm seeing this person because it is the Ace of Cups. I feel like they do get it, like they see all these material blessings pouring in and it just blows them away because they can't believe that people love them that much. So to them it's like, I was just doing this thing that I love doing, and oh my God, I can't believe it's got to this point where people are just giving me so much money. And as I was saying that, I guess in the modern world, this could also be someone who's on social media, creating content of some kind. So that's a possibility as well. Okay, so the card we've got in the past position is the Nine of Pentacles, and that's a funny card to have in the past position because it's about material stability and financial independence. So it looks like this person's already doing reasonably well in life. So whatever they've done in their life, it's worked out pretty well. The bottom of the deck does have them as the Knight of Pentacles, though, so they're still working towards something bigger. Yes, I feel like this is an ambitious kind of person. They're already fairly successful, and I think most people would see them as someone who's done fairly well in life, but they're still aiming for something bigger, some bigger achievement. And then we've got the card in the present position, which is the Eight of Pentacles, which is about working hard. So they're definitely working towards something because obviously Knight of Pentacles, Eight of Pentacles, this is not someone who's resting on their laurels. They're sort of hammering away at their long-term goal. And seriously, we have so many pentacle energies in the spread, don't we? Even the Ace of Cups is talking about pentacles because of those crystals. And I guess we're in Taurus season right now, so Taurus is about the material life. Oh, I just got why the Nine of Pentacles is significant. So this person doesn't need the money. They're not doing what they're doing for the money side of things. This dream they have is something else. They actually already have enough money to have a good life, and that's the point this Nine of Pentacles is making. They're fairly financially stable, independent already. So this is interesting. It looks like whatever they're doing is something they're just doing it because they enjoy doing it, and even though they don't need the money from it, it looks like they're going to end up making a lot of money from it. And that's I think maybe that's another reason they're seeing this as love, like, because it's not money they need, but it's still coming to them. So it's like, oh my God, I'm so loved. Yeah, they're blown away because of all these pentacles landing in their cup, because they weren't even trying to fill their cup with pentacles in the first place. So that is so interesting. Okay, so moving to the card in the future position, we've got the Five of Wands, which is not my favorite card, but okay. And I'll explain that. It's not my favorite card because the Five of Wands is often about competition with others, and unfortunately that is something that can turn nasty, and I've seen that happen. So it's like, I don't like competition. But to be fair, the Five of Wands is not a bad card. It is just a card of competition. So whatever this person is doing, they will have competition. It can also represent like practicing, training to become better at something. So that's another possibility here as well. But looking at this image, we actually don't see other people. So that's kind of nice. We just see this person who's sitting here in the lotus position, and they've got their back turned to the Five Wands. So that actually seems quite good to me. So it's like this person is aware that they have competition, but it's not something that's actually something that they're not focusing on it. It's not disturbing their peace. It's actually like they're not really all that interested in what the others are doing. They've turned their back to it. They're in their own zone and they're doing what they want to do, and that's nice. So they're just doing their stuff. They're not worrying about what other people are doing. And that's actually what I like to see, to be honest. So people need to just do what they're good at and do their best at what they're doing, but really not worry about what other people are doing, because that's a lot healthier. Because, the people that are aggressively competitive, they're always obsessing about what other people are doing and trying to keep up and compete, and then they're always changing what they do to match someone else's efforts, or so it becomes more about winning than about doing what comes naturally to you. And when you think about it, it's often someone's originality and authenticity that makes them stand out from the crowd. So if we're talking about someone who's going to be loved in a big way by a lot of people, they're probably going to be someone who does come across as authentic and real, or who comes across as a one-of-a-kind individual sort of person. And I'm picturing Princess Diana in my mind. She entered the royal family, the British royal family, and almost from the start she stood out as someone different, because she had a lot of warmth. She had this fun, playful nature. She was very moved by the causes that she was supporting. So I think people just saw her as different to the other royals, because she seemed so caring and so engaging. And people loved her for it because, I mean, honestly, the way the world mourned when she died is probably not something I'll see repeated again in my lifetime. And, when you think about a lot of the princesses that followed, do try and model themselves on Diana, but it's actually not something that the people have fallen for. I think people can always tell the difference between someone who's being authentic and someone who's pretending to be a certain way because they think that's how they should operate in order to be successful. Okay, so what I'm getting from that is that it's the authenticity and originality of this person that's going to win everyone's hearts. And so now we'll move to the oracle cards. And I think I can guess which card you guys have been staring at from the start. So I always pull cards for a spread. I start with the oracle cards normally. And so the very first oracle card that I pulled is the first oracle card here. And it was fascinating. It's titled Quetzalcoatl and the Priestess of Time. So this card is from a deck that's about shapeshifters. And so I thought that would fit with the theme of Scorpio's transformational energies. But this card is amazing. So Quetzalcoatl is actually a famous deity in Aztec mythology, and I think he's closely related to Kukulkan in the Mayan mythology. And he's depicted as a feathered serpent. So you've probably seen pictures of that around the place. If you Google it, you'll recognize that imagery because that's Quetzalcoatl. Now, he came up for me a few years ago, so I read up on him out of interest, and there was a lot of information related to him, but what stayed in my head was that he was a wind god and that he was connected to shamanic vision quests by, Aztec priests and kings. But I decided I'd go back and do a refresher for this video because he's obviously here in this reading. So the other things which I had sort of forgotten, he's also the creator god who created the world and humans, so he's very, very important. And he's also related to the sun and Venus, which is very interesting given the astrology. I'll talk about that in a second. But he's also related to knowledge, learning, the arts and crafts and things like that. So quite a lot. But getting back to that sun and Venus, it's interesting because the sun is currently in the Venus-ruled sign of Taurus. And because it's a full moon, it's opposing the full moon. And because it's a wind god, I'm thinking of the element of air because that's the fastest element. And, the wind can really change at any time. And that's making me think of Uranus as well because it's also connected to the element of air. It's actually the ruler of Aquarius, which is the fixed air sign, obviously. And Uranus can also make things change suddenly, which we've talked about. So I feel like Quetzalcoatl being here is also saying that something could really change very, very quickly, like the wind could just suddenly change unexpectedly. So it's like if there was a strong wind that was blowing against this person, or maybe they were working hard and there was no wind at all to help them progress. That could all just suddenly change, and suddenly that strong wind is at their back. It's pushing them forward, carrying them forward, and that's something they didn't see coming at all. And we've got the Priestess of Time on this card, which also makes me think this is about a big timeline shift or jump, which is also what I was sensing in the astrology. So that thing where someone's thinking they've still got steps to complete and it's going to take time, but then it turns out that's not how it's going to happen at all because they've somehow been magically scooped up and transported to the finish line. So the wind just kind of lifts them and carries them there. It's crazy. It sounds totally crazy, doesn't it? But I keep getting this. I get this in the astrology and here. And the message on this card is the time has come. The time to act is now. So this is saying that the thing that this knight was working towards is just going to appear in front of them, and they're just meant to jump on board with it. So it might be a shock, but they'll just have to drop whatever else is going on and jump on board. And maybe that's where those endings that were coming up in the astrology are significant. So there might be things that just have to be released because this person's future timeline has arrived now, and those things can't go with them. So it's just this sudden releases and endings and completions. Okay, so moving along, I guess my natural process with cards and decks that I'm selecting is that I let the cards guide me to the next and the next deck and the next one. So we had Quetzalcoatl and the Priestess of Time. So my first thought was to get a card from a Priestess deck. So that's that second card there. And then I was thinking, gee, I don't really have a Serpent deck. But then this deck popped into my head. Thank you, Spirit Guides. But this is the Dragon Riders Oracle. And the reason I was like, oh, wow, is because dragons can obviously look like serpents, can't they? So I pulled out the deck, I got this card, and it kind of blew my mind because it's quite similar, even in appearance, to that first card. But this is the Welsh Cerridwen, I think that's how you say it. And I had to look her up because I'm not too familiar with Welsh mythology, but she was an enchantress, but she's also considered the goddess of rebirth and transformation and inspiration. So wow. So we've got the Scorpio energies right there with rebirth and transformation. But then that word inspiration is making me think of Quetzalcoatl because he was connected to arts and crafts as well, creativity. And then we get to the message on this card. It says, see the wonders around you and honor this incarnation. The here and now is the stage on which you will encounter and learn to love yourself. So the thing that immediately struck me was the synchronicity of this card talking about the here and now, because the other card said the time is now. So yeah, something's happening now. And this card also talks about experiencing wonders and honoring this incarnation. So that definitely is supporting that there's something big that's going to happen in this lifetime, in this incarnation. And then the last part of that message is talking about how this experience will reveal to this person who they are meant to be, and that when they know themselves fully, they will experience a lot of self-love. So that's interesting because we were talking about the love of a lot of people externally, but maybe this is being pulled in because of the self-love that this person will also have. So obviously we talk about the law of attraction, like the energy that you hold is the energy you attract. So maybe as this person discovers the truth of who they are and steps into being that version of themselves, there's a lot of self-love, and then it's pulling in love from everywhere and everyone else. So that's interesting. And we had the Sun and the Ace of Cups. So the Sun is something that shines brightly. And as I said before, the Ace of Cups is about the experience of being loved. So it looks like all of that's going to happen. Now, this Cerridwen card is also a number 22 card, which in numerology is called the Master Builder number. So that's about someone who can turn their visions into reality, so they can create things from whatever they're seeing in their mind. So we going back to those inspiration and creativity energies that are related to both Quetzalcoatl and Cerridwen. And it's also reminding me of how Quetzalcoatl is connected to, shamanic vision quests. So this person could be quite the visionary. And then we get to that middle card, which kind of supports that actually, because it's titled Clairvoyance. And it has the keywords inspiration, interpretation, and trust. And the priestess in this card looks like she's actively scrying or something. She's looking into this bowl that she's holding. So again, we get another synchronicity with the word inspiration showing up again. And so this is about someone who is an inspired visionary, and they will create from those visions because of that master builder energy that's there. And the other words here, interpretation and trust, make me think that they're meant to trust their visions and to trust that the way they're interpreting those visions is correct, and to trust that their creative process is correct as well. So they're bringing their visions to life, and Spirit is assuring them that what they're doing is right and that they should be confident about that. And I guess with with trust as well. This could be about other people feeling like they can trust this person's interpretation of things. And so that's carrying me back to how we were getting those messages around authenticity before. So I think this person's authenticity makes it easy for other people to trust them and to trust in their visions and creations and how they're translating, interpreting their visions and creating something from it. Wow, that's a huge reading. But that's what I'm getting from this tarot spread. Definitely, I completely, I will completely say that this is a crazy reading, but because that same craziness was coming through all the way through because of all those outer planetary influences, I think, this might definitely, this is not about things unfolding in the ways we might expect them to unfold. So, as I said in the astrology section, we're just meant to have faith in the universe and ride the waves. If this happens to you, just go with it, because it sounds like that's what you were meant to do in this lifetime. And, with those energies at the bottom of the deck, it's going to make you very happy, even if you can't see it in the present. And my clairaudience just came in. It said, this is a whirlwind experience. So, okay, so I guess if that's what happens, it will be a great story to tell the grandchildren one day. And that's it for this tarot video. I hope you weren't too taken aback by the out there-ness of the reading. If you are still here, thank you so much for watching the video, and if you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel and give the video a like as well. I would love to hear your thoughts as well, so please leave a comment if you feel that you would like to. To everyone who's already subscribed, thank you so much for your support. Now, as I said earlier, all my decks will be in the description box. Yeah, that's it, I think. So I'll see you guys at the next reading. Okay, bye. Take care.